we are live. Yay, we're live with Connie Podesta. She is not your ordinary motivational speaker. She adds comedy and fun to the wisdom that she shares, and I cannot wait to learn more about her. So Connie, tell us a little bit about yourself, and thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you are welcome. Well, I had to kind of laugh when you said I'm not the typical motivational speaker, because you have to put it to get your SEO and your numbers up and people find you. You know, there's all this stuff that you have to do when you're in the business, but then people call me and I go, now I'm not your typical. And they go, well, what do you mean? I said, I am not your rah, dream your dream. If you want it bad enough, you can have it. I said, I am totally reality based, and I'm more of a kick your butt and stop whining and stop griping and stop complaining. And it is what it is. And this is what's like right now. I said, we're quarantined, we're locked down, we're in COVID, life sucks. I got it. So you got two ways to go here. You can either whine and resist everything, or you can say, well, right now, for now, who knows how long, this is what I'm dealing with. So how do I still stay as healthy, as vibrant, as successful, as thoughtful, as compassionate as I can possibly be, and not even, regardless. I always say character isn't how you act when life is good. I mean, character is how you act when life sucks. Okay, character is how you choose to behave when life is so difficult that you can barely breathe. And so as a therapist, it's been really interesting for me to watch COVID and any crisis. Let's just call it a crisis. When people are in crisis and life is so unpredictable and it's not at all what they imagined, that's when I think the true being comes out of what do you do. And like for me, I'm an international speaker. I mean, up until a year ago, March 20th, 2020, I was speaking 60, 70 conventions a year around the world, 100,000 people. I was blowing and going. I had it all. I'm thinking, wow. And then all of a sudden, 28 people canceled. I mean, no one's going to have 5,000 people in the audience in the middle of Vegas or Orlando or one of these places. And I have to admit, I did the common approach, which I give it to all of you. We all had a right to whine. I whined, I cried, I resisted. This isn't fair. I got mad. I mean, all of the things like, how could this happen to me? I've worked my whole life. Now I have no income. Now I have no job. And at that point, we were all doing it, so we were having little happy hours in my cul-de-sac where we're all sitting 1,000 feet apart, griping about, we hope this doesn't last more than a month. And then after 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, what happens in normal crises happen to most all of us listening. You wake up one day and you realize, now I don't think any of us realized it would be a year. Did you, Jamie? Were you saying to yourself, a year from now, we're still going to be, no, but I think we did realize it wasn't going to be gone in a few weeks. And that's when you wake up and let's take COVID out of it. Let's say, you got laid off or you go through a divorce. Let's take any crisis in life. As soon as you rail and cry and yell and scream, there's that moment where this is how it is. I'm going to be a divorced person, or I'm no longer going to work for this company, or, my investments just tanked and I got to find something else, whatever that moment is. And that's the moment when everything you've ever learned, everything you've ever done, everything that you ever believed comes to being. And you say to yourself, I either have to deal with this, or I'm just going to continue to whine and cry and moan and use this as an excuse for failure the rest of my life. So I got my big girl pants on and shaped up and said, yep, I'm not going to be making that money. I'm not going to be talking to those kind of clients. I'm not going to have 1,000 people in my audience, which is my life's blood. I always thought, obviously not, because I'm still alive. And you figure out how to do something different. So that's about me. It's yeah. Well, yeah.
Pivot and turn and see the other pasture.
Right. And you may not even see it. I mean, I didn't.
Not at first.
I mean, I'm I just lost a speaking job this week because they called me a year ago and they asked if I would do virtual. And a year ago, you know what? I said, no, no. I said, and I told them why virtual is no good for me. I said, I need to be in front of people. I bring people up on stage. I interact. I don't have PowerPoints. I don't have slides. I mean, and they went, oh my God, you're right. We're going to wait a year to have you. I mean, we need that life. So I sold my old self to them. Well, now it's a year later and they're calling and they go, well, we still can't do it live. We're going to have it virtual. And I said, oh, great. I'm doing virtuals all over. And they go, no, I mean, you made us really realize that we could never have you as a virtual.
Oh, no.
And I mean,
Man.
I'm treading water. I'm like, yeah, but here's all the people I've done, and here's videos, and here's this, and no, I mean, I did such a great job of selling why I could not pivot, why I could not do that they just said, so we're going to get so and so, and I'm like, oh my God, so and so. I mean, that's my competitor, and if we're doing it live next year, we'll think of you again. So sometimes we don't pivot quick enough. So I'm now living a year later with a reputation that I created when I wasn't ready to pivot. I wasn't ready to do something different. I mean, I didn't know how to use Zoom. I didn't know how to do anything. So instead of learning, I just talked them out of it. Just use me next year.
Right.
So,
oh gosh, it's so easy to put ourselves in a box and then to have to break out of it or climb it takes a little bit of doing, but that's okay because we eventually do. And we find the people who are meant to find us, right?
Right.
So we just recreate that tribe and recreate ourselves, and it all ends up working out.
Right. And
yes, that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
And we have to let go of a lot of stuff. I mean,
it is.
At first I thought in order to do a virtual, I would have to compromise everything I am. And I'm not a normal, typical speaker. I am engaging and people come up and I don't have an outline and I don't have PowerPoint. And all the first virtual speakers were, turning their upstairs into a production studio. And, they had teleprompters and scripted things. And I thought that's what I had to do. So I did one virtual as a talking head because I didn't think outside of the box. And it was so horrible. I had to call them and say, that's free. I mean, that was terrible. And then I was like, well, I know I need to switch and pivot, but how do I keep me? I mean, how do I do that? And so one day I thought, well, what I need is 12 and 15 people on the screen. I can't be a talking head. I have to do this. I have to be talking to someone. And so once I started that, it's like you have to have at least 15 people from the audience. Their mics are on, their cameras are on. And then I talk to everybody and we interact and I do role plays. John, what about this? And John, pretending you're selling to. And so now I have my audience. And now I've figured out how to pivot. And I think that's the secret to pivoting. You've got to figure out how to find another path without losing yourself. And that's what scares people. They think if I'm going to change, I'm going to lose everything about me. And the secret is you figure out who you are, you look at the change, and then your brain, your heart, everything, and your ego looks at this, and then you figure out, what can I do to keep the most of what I'm gifted at, what I'm talented at. So now
that's
I'm
a perfect
15 people, but in 2 weeks, I have my first live job, 2 weeks to the day. My last was on stage March 19th, 2020, and I will now be on stage, 500 people, Orlando, March 19th, 2020. They'll be sitting further apart. When they come up on stage, they have to stand further away. I used to switch my mic. I would say, Jamie, what about this? And I would talk. And now they have to have their own mic and we have to wipe it down after each one for the next person. But again, it's like, once I knew I was going to be on stage, okay, how can I still be who I am on stage? What do I have to do? Okay, they have to be seated apart. I can bring them up, but I can't stand close to them. I can't share my mic, so they're going to have a mic. Well, if they're going to share a mic, then it has to be sanitized. And again, I think every pivot we make is, how do we keep who we are, still keep that, and still be safe and sane and cautious, and meet all the requirements that people
To
have.
say, meet all the needs, right?
Right. Meet everyone's needs.
That's a perfect segue into getting to know Connie as opposed to Connie, the motivational speaker. So let's get started.
Okay.
All right, Connie, name a sport or activity that you wish you were good at or that you are good at.
Square dancing.
Oh my gosh, where did you learn that?
It's a square dance caller. And I mean, he was a salesperson. He had a real job, but we grew up, and I grew up for years and years. And every weekend, my sister and I would go, and he would be up there calling, and grab your partner and loop-de-loo and do-si-do and blah. And I learned all of it. So at 13 or so, he'd let me call a square dance or two. And I thought square dancing was amazing. I mean, it would never work now because, for so many reasons, but, it was just, my mom had all these outfits and made all these dresses. And I always thought when I was younger that no matter what job I did, I would be supplementing my income by calling square dancing on the weekends. And so that hasn't happened. So
you never know.
And I think that's a sport. Isn't it a sport? I mean,
absolutely. Heck yeah, that counts. I like it.
When you square dance for 3 and 4 hours, I mean, that was a sport.
Oh yeah. Dancing at all.
It gives away my age, but anyway.
No, it's precious.
So bring it on. Question 2.
Love it. Okay. What is your favorite cartoon character?
Cartoon character? Oh, Wonder Woman. Now, it's not a cartoon, really, but it is animated. And not because of the woman-male thing. I just kind of liked her personality, and it has nothing to do with guys or us being dominant or any. It's just the fact that, as a kid, that was, again, one of the few women, and she didn't do it meanly. She didn't have an attitude. She didn't run people over. She just, was kind of who she was. So I thought that was kind of cool. But I like Superman equally well. So I'm not a sexist person.
For Wonder Woman, I was really touched by how curious she was. She was very curious about everything, and I really like that. They did
a good job with Superman and Wonder Woman of making them both tough, and they both did their job. But she was still thought a lot like women, what she was trying to do and make the peace. And so I enjoyed that. I thought that was kind of interesting.
I agree. I totally agree. If you could choose a favorite drink, what would it be?
Can I include alcohol?
Sure.
Okay, a sea breeze martini. A sea breeze martini is my favorite drink in the whole world. It's fresh grapefruit juice. It's a little cranberry juice, and it's a little vodka. And there are times in my life, what I like about a sea breeze is that when I'm speaking, I never have anything alcoholic. And so I order a virgin sea breeze in a martini glass, and it looks exactly the same. So I have discovered that it's not the alcohol with me at all. It's the glass. So if I can have club soda and cranberry juice in a wine glass, or grapefruit juice and cranberry juice in a martini glass, I am totally happy. So really, the alcohol is totally unnecessary for me. The glass makes me feel different. So
I love it. And I completely agree as a somewhat of a non-drinker myself.
Yeah.
What is your favorite season?
I would probably Christmas. I think that's its own season. I think we have 5 seasons. I think Christmas comes between fall and spring. And if it's Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate, it's that time and about just, there's a hustle and a bustle, and people have lights, and it just is a time. I remember watching older movies where even during wars, sometimes on that day, people would call a truce, and the 2 groups of soldiers would even have a drink or smoke a cigarette. I mean, I think we need a season, and I don't whether, like I said, it's Hanukkah or whatever your religious beliefs are, I think we need a season where we just stop for a second and try to get together and not be mad at everybody and just calm down a little bit. And so it's maybe that season of trying to at least think about peace.
I wonder if the feeling has to do a little bit with winter, in that we come in from the outside and we have to commune with each other more closely. And so we make it work. We make ourselves get along better. We make ourselves find the peace.
Well, if that were true, the quarantine would have been very peaceful.
Good point.
Really, no, but really in many ways, it has changed a lot of people in terms of what's important and what do you do and finding more peace. And I mean, I've had to, when you go from 60 or 70 jobs a year, and I was always in lines, security lines and airplanes and going around in hotels. And, it's definitely changed me. And I know it's changed all of us in many negative ways. But I think for a lot of us, most of us can find something that, for me, it was, I needed to probably calm down a bit and think a little bit more. So, yeah, I think you have something there that sometimes just to come in out of the cold and be grateful for what you have is a good thing for us to go through.
Awesome. Okay. Last question, but definitely not the least important. What is your favorite quote or phrase?
Well, I hate to say it because it's mine, okay? And it doesn't
That's okay.
I mean, but it's the one I started with, is that, and I said it years and years ago, character's not how we are when life is good, character's how we are when life is so horrible that we can barely breathe. And I really have felt it this year. And I don't always mean that I've made that quote work or justified that quote or lived up to that quote. I've missed my family, and it was the first Thanksgivings and holidays that none of us were together. And yeah, there's a lot of that. But I think my favorite quote is really my favorite value, maybe, rather than most people, when you ask them their favorite quote, what they're really telling you is what they value the most. And they've chosen a quote that reflects what they value. And I think, when I was doing therapy, people would say, well, I screamed and hollered and swore, but that's not who I really am. Well, yeah, it is. That's exactly. I mean, it may not be who you are most of the time, but none of us really do much of which is a part of us at some depth or level of our being. And I think this year has been a time for that. Who are you really? What do you want really? For some people, this has been a year that's given them an excuse they've always needed of why they can't succeed, why they can't get along, why they can't do what they say they've wanted to do. And, I'm sure as a coach, you have found that too, right? And we talked about it before the tape went on, that there's the doers and then there's the dreamers. And I think the doers have a dreamer in them, but the difference is they dream and then they take action to make it happen. Whereas other people just dream and then they don't do anything. And so then they get another dream and then they don't do anything and then they get another dream. And I think my dream was always to speak, always. And so I'm going to make that happen, whether it's COVID or not, or quarantine or not, or my age, or whether I'm young or whatever. I mean, I will be speaking in nursing homes to people who are catatonic and don't even know my name, I'm sure. In hospice, they'll be like, can I have Connie? I know she's dying, but like, she is so friggin' funny. Okay. That I just, can I have her for her last day on earth? So, make it happen.
Make it happen. I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate it. And
well, good. Nice to meet you. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you.